Listen closely to Leyndell. Not to the choirs, not to the wind moving through gold, but to what breathes beneath it. The capital stands on a foundation that was never blessed. Beneath the marble and sanctified light lives something the Golden Order cannot explain, only confine. The Omens are not invaders. They are not a corruption from outside. They are born here, under this law, in this age, and from the moment they draw breath, they are treated as evidence of a mistake no one is willing to name. Every omen is a contradiction with a pulse. Their bodies refuse the story of perfect order. Horns that do not recede, flesh that does not conform. The Order calls this a curse, as if a single word can close the case. It doesn't. It only creates distance, a moral shortcut that turns fear into doctrine. What's at stake here isn't sympathy, it's authority. Because if the Omens are allowed to exist as they are, then order isn't natural, it isn't inevitable, it's enforced. And that means the Golden Order, sanctified by Marika herself, is not the world as it must be, but the world as someone decided it should be, built on everything buried and told to stay quiet. Before we part, the Golden Order grows through faith, and this archive is still young. If you'd like to walk alongside it, one quiet gesture is enough. You have my thanks. Sincerely. The Omens matter because they expose the cost of order, not in theory, but in flesh. The Golden Order does not simply describe the world, it selects who is allowed to belong in it. Omens are the proof that this selection is violent by design. They are not corrected, they are removed, filed away beneath the capital, where the law does not have to look at them. This isn't about monsters lurking in the dark. It's about children born wrong according to a system that refuses to admit it has criteria at all. The Order claims universality. It insists its rules reflect the natural shape of life. But Omens show the seams. They reveal that grace has boundaries, and that those boundaries are enforced with chains, blades, and silence. The moment an omen is declared cursed, something irreversible happens. Not to them, but to the world that condemns them. The Order becomes smaller, narrower, less capable of accounting for what actually exists. And once that line is drawn, it never stops at horns and tails. It becomes a template for exclusion. Even Marika's perfect age depends on this logic holding. Because if the Omens are not a mistake, then the mistake lies with the Order that could not accept them. To understand why Omens could never be accepted, you have to understand what the Golden Order actually is. It isn't just faith, it's an operating system for reality. Life is ranked, separated, corrected. Death is regulated. Difference is tolerated only if it can be named, categorized, and placed safely within the hierarchy of grace. Omens break that structure simply by existing. They are born bearing traits the Order insists belong to the distant past. Horns, tails, excess flesh, signs of a time when life was not yet disciplined into clean forms. The Golden Order does not interpret these features as neutral biology. It treats them as ideological threats, proof that the world does not naturally resolve into perfect symmetry. That's why the response is immediate and brutal. For commoners, the horns are cut away, often killing the child. If they survive, they are imprisoned. For the highborn, discretion replaces mercy. They are hidden, sealed beneath the capital, their existence erased from public memory. The law stays intact as long as no one has to see what contradicts it. This is the contradiction at the heart of the Order. It claims to reflect the world as it truly is, yet it must actively suppress living evidence to maintain that claim. Even Marika's reign depends on that suppression, not as a failure of control, but as a prerequisite for it. The Golden Order's treatment of omens becomes clearest, not in scripture, but in infrastructure. Leyndell is engineered to hide them. Beneath its avenues and sanctuaries lies the Subterranean Shunning-Grounds, a space not meant for reform or punishment, but for disappearance. This is where the Order puts what it cannot reconcile with its own claims. Omens are shackled, sealed away in filth and waste, surrounded by the city's refuse. The symbolism is blunt. What the capital casts off flows downward, and the Omens are forced to live inside that current. They are not criminals serving sentences. They are evidence being buried. The chains are not there to correct behavior, but to ensure silence. What makes this system especially damning is its selectivity. When Omens are born to commoners, the response is mutilation or death. Horns are cut away to preserve appearances, even when the child doesn't survive the process. When Omens are born to royalty, the punishment changes shape. Execution would be inconvenient. So they are hidden instead, locked beneath the very city that benefits from pretending they never existed. This is not mercy, it is image management. The Golden Order presents itself as impartial, yet its laws bend effortlessly to protect legitimacy. Omens are condemned not because they are dangerous, but because they are visible contradictions. Their bodies carry traits the Order insists no longer belong in the world. Rather than confront that contradiction, the system builds prisons and calls it justice. Marika's authority, like the Erd Tree's splendor, is upheld by this arrangement. The capital shines because what threatens its story is kept below, chained, unseen, and officially forgotten. The deeper problem the Omens represent isn't social, it's historical. Their bodies carry traits that the Golden Order insists are obsolete, yet those traits keep returning, generation after generation, as if the world itself refuses to forget what it once was. Horns, tails, excess growth. These are not random deformities. They echo an older vision of life, one rooted in abundance rather than control. Before the Erd Tree became the axis of meaning, life in the lands between was not cleanly divided. The Crucible, described in relics and knightly orders, was a state where all forms blended together. Strength came from excess. Power came from multiplicity. In that context, the Omen body would not have been cursed. It would have been sacred. The Golden Order reverses that valuation. It defines purity as reduction, one form, one destiny, one correct shape. Anything that exceeds that boundary becomes a threat. The Omens are not hated because they are weak or malformed, but because they embody too much. Too many traits, too much history, too much evidence that life does not naturally resolve into neat hierarchies. This reframes their persecution entirely. The Order isn't reacting to a new corruption, it's reacting to an old memory that refuses to die. Omens are living continuity with a world the current regime needed to erase in order to exist. Their imprisonment is not about safety, it's about narrative control. Even Marika's age of perfect order relies on this disavowal. The Crucible had to be redefined as chaos. Excess had to become sin. And the Omens, walking reminders of that earlier truth, had to be named cursed so the world could move forward without looking back. There's a small detail most players pass without comment. Omen enemies do not move like other humanoids. Their attacks are erratic, heavy, unmeasured. They don't circle. They don't posture. They surge. This isn't innate savagery. It's learned behavior. Creatures raised in chains don't develop grace. They develop momentum. Even their resistance to holy damage feels telling, as if the power that sanctifies the capital simply does not recognize them as valid recipients. At some point, the question stops being why the Omens were rejected and becomes why the Golden Order needed them to be. A system that defines itself as perfect requires contrast. It needs something to point at and say, this is what we are not. The Omens fill that role too well. They are living boundaries, drawn in flesh rather than ink. By condemning them, the Order reassures everyone else. You are normal. You are chosen. You belong. And as long as that promise holds, few ask what it costs to maintain. The prisons remain out of sight. The chains remain justified. Order survives not by convincing everyone, but by removing those who complicate the story. Even Marika's authority is reinforced through that exclusion, because every Omen hidden away makes the world above feel cleaner, safer, more correct. And that comfort is powerful enough to keep the question buried. The Golden Order produced 2 Omens who survived its judgment, and in doing so, it exposed itself more clearly than any doctrine ever could. Morgott and Mohg were born under the same curse, locked beneath the same capital, and taught the same lesson from the moment they could understand it. You do not belong. What followed was not destiny, it was consequence. Morgott learned to hate himself before he learned to hate the world. He absorbed the Order's verdict and made it his own. If he was cursed, then the curse was just. If he was rejected, then rejection must be necessary. He defended the Erd Tree not because it loved him, but because he needed it to be right. His loyalty is not noble, it's desperate. Every blow he strikes in defense of the capital is an attempt to justify his own suffering. Mohg took the opposite path. He did not internalize the verdict. He rejected the authority that issued it. Where Morgott clung to a system that denied him, Mohg sought a god that would look at him and not turn away. The formless mother does not purify. She does not correct. She accepts blood, wounds, and excess without apology. This is not redemption. It is recognition. Neither brother escapes corruption. One is consumed by duty, the other by ambition. But their divergence proves something essential. The Omens were not born monstrous. They were shaped by exclusion. Given no place in the world above, they each built a response to that absence. One in service, the other in defiance. Even Marika's order cannot claim neutrality here. These are not aberrations. They are outcomes. When a system decides who is allowed to exist, it also decides what forms rebellion and obedience will take. In the end, the Omens are not a mystery the Golden Order failed to solve. They are a truth it chose not to live with. Their suffering is not collateral damage. It is structural. The prisons beneath Leyndell are not mistakes left over from a harsher age. They are load-bearing. Remove them, and the story of order begins to crack. The Golden Order teaches that the world is legible, that everything has a place, if properly named. The Omens prove otherwise. They show that life exceeds the categories imposed on it, that history cannot be fully overwritten, only suppressed. And suppression always leaks, through bloodlines, through bodies, through children born carrying traits the world insists should no longer exist. Even now, nothing about the Order has truly changed. The language is cleaner, the gold is brighter, but the logic remains intact. Difference is still treated as threat. Excess is still framed as error. What cannot be corrected is hidden. What cannot be hidden is destroyed. Marika's age did not eliminate the old world. It buried it alive and called that progress. The Omens endure as living testimony to that decision. Not symbols, not monsters, witnesses. So the question is no longer whether the Golden Order was justified in rejecting them. The question is simpler and far more uncomfortable. What kind of world requires children to be locked away just to believe it is whole?